Managing risk is key to the success of cattlemen. We have more in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
And joining me in the studio today is Larry Hicks of Cattle Hedging. Larry, welcome to the show.
Kevin, thank you very much for having me.
You bet. Tell us a little bit to begin with, what is cattle hedging?
Cattle hedging is something that I've built on for the last 36 years, and its focus is specifically on managing risk for livestock producers and packers in U.S. and Canada. We have a main office in the NCBA building on the first floor. We have a branch in Fort Collins. We have a branch in Yuma, Colorado, a branch in Westminster, and a branch in Colorado Springs.
Outstanding. Well, tell me this, how do cattle feeders effectively manage risk if they only focus on equity as opposed to longer-term price forecasts and so forth? What's your read on that?
What you're asking me is something that we tend to realign the focus of producers. They all want to see how high they're going to go, afraid of how low it's going to go. They always want to know ahead of time, and life isn't quite that simple. So in managing risk, we're trying to realign how they're focusing and what they're focusing on. And the answer is really simple. And the answer is what they all really want, and that is equity. They want to make more money. And so if we look at the balance sheet, we look at the equity side of protecting equity, which means, one, the assets. We've got these cattle that are on grass, cattle in the feedlot. Those are their assets. We've got to protect those. We've got to optimize their profitability, but we've got to protect the risk on them. So that's the asset side of the balance sheet.
Okay.
The other part of the balance sheet that we've got to do a better job of doing that is key to success is the liability side of the balance sheet. Do a better job on buying our feeder cattle, even maybe pricing out ahead. Two, what are we doing about the corn? These volatile times in corn, we cannot sit there, buy an animal, not price in the feed that we're feeding the animals, and expect break-evens that we can reach profitable levels for. Right. We've got to do a better job on the liability side. So managing your risk is manage your equity is our mission statement, that we focus and realign our focus on the protection of the assets, do a better job on the liability side, and that flows to either retained earnings, profitability, or protecting the, I don't care if it's the family farm or a major corporate stockholders. We've got to protect the equity.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the last couple of years have shown us that extreme volatility, no doubt. Tell me this, given your 36 years of experience, what would you tell our viewers as to the biggest difference between those outfits that really are profitable and successful over time and those that struggle?
Again, the answer is really simple, but it's the weakest point that most livestock producers have, and the word is discipline. Discipline means that we have to decide and set up initially what we talk about in our classes of risk management, and that is we talk about a hedge policy. Let's decide some rules. Let's get some guidelines here. I don't know what the future has, and the volatility is greater in both price as well as in basis. So let's set up some rules. Set up hedge policy. Within hedge policy, we outline what's the risk, how do we protect them? And there's three of them, Kevin. One of them is profitability.
Okay.
Two is price risk, and three is basis. So now instead of trying to forecast, we're now identifying what our risks are as well as our opportunities. Because if we just focus on risk, we may miss out on the big opportunities. So let's look at the three: profitability, price risk, and basis. And in doing so, it forces us to keep a discipline. And that discipline gives us triggers. The trigger says, hey, I've reached a profit level I'm willing to, maybe even a break even I'm willing to live with. The trigger's done. Price risk. Is the price of my asset going up? Is the price of my asset going down? Are the liabilities that I'm trying to buy, my corn, my feeders, trend up, trend down? What should I do? I need triggers, I need decision-making tools, and I need the discipline.
And discipline is a key element of that. As you talk about forecasts and the opportunities and risk, our viewers love hearing people's forecasts in the coming year. So as you look ahead to 2011, let me put you on the spot and say, what are the opportunities and risks you see in the year ahead?
I think one of the things that we want to do when we review that is say that 2010 has been an exceptionally good year for prices, coming after 2009 where the industry lost record equity in dollars per head. Why did this year happen? One is our exports are up 26%. That's good. The other one is that our carcass weights have averaged about 14 pounds less than a year ago, that means that the packer has to go out and acquire 14,000 more head and slaughter them to meet the same beef production as a year ago. So it gave the producer a much better leverage on price. Now, as we look ahead, the variables are what's the demand going to do? What's the economy going to do? If what we need to realize is the consumer has not paid in 2010 the wholesale prices that we've seen from a producer standpoint. The retailers absorb that. If the retailer passes that on, he's either got to go to the consumer, and if that consumer doesn't pay it, it's going to come back to the wholesale level. That'll take fed cattle prices to a minimum of 92 on the downside to maybe as low as the $88 level. On the upside, if we continue the strength, we continue pulling cattle forward, we do a good job, keep our weights down, then we could see highs in the 105 plus or minus a buck.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But again, shows the volatility that we have to be prepared to manage. Thanks so much for coming to the show.
Kevin, thank you very much.
You bet. For details on cattle hedging and their upcoming risk management workshop, visit our website at cattlementocattlemen.org.